Hey y'all. Okay, so this is our very first tech talk. Their very first tech talk together. So episode 1, we'll call it episode 1. This is our official first tech talk, and this is just for our A-star crafters at this moment in time. So I know there's going to be a lot of you who are going to be watching this as a replay. We're also going to be building out a library next year of these tech talks as we start to accumulate them. So they'll become a resource for all of our members who need help with the technical side of things as well as techniques. So craft tech talks are all about, is it something technical like on a computer that you need help with? Is it something that's a technique like, getting vinyl to stick to a curved surface or something like that? This place is for all those types of questions. So we had several people already submit questions, and I'm going to dive into those. But if we have more questions that come up here, or you have questions based off my answers to other questions, like feel free to drop them in the comments. If for whatever reason I don't have the answer to something, I am a straight shooter. I will say I don't know because I don't want to mislead you if I don't know the actual answer to it, okay? And if it's something I can find out, then I'll go find it out. And then I will pop back in and put it into the description, or I will make a note for a future tech talk to mention it again. Okay, awesome. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I can't believe that our Fast and Festive 5 is over and we're now on to like a whole new thing, right? So it's like super exciting that went so fast. It was so great though. All those replays are still available. Okay, so I'm going to dive right in. We've got like 5 or 6 questions to start with, and then I'm sure there'll be more. So first question is from Maria. So we have a question on fonts. She's asking about, she says, I can use the thinnest font to be a script for the writing font. They're very thin, or they're one-line font in Design Space. But a lot of these will convert, sorry, that's my dog. A lot of these will convert to like outline bubble letters in Design Space. And I believe what she's talking about here is system fonts. So she's probably downloading system fonts, maybe finding some free ones online she wants to use, or maybe getting them off of Creative Fabrica or all those places. And she's changing it to a writing style to write with a pen in Cricut Design Space. But what happens is we will get that weird bubble result instead of an actual handwritten stroke like you would if you're writing with a pen. So I'm going to share my screen for just a second to show you what she's actually referring to, because this is a question I get a lot. So this is a great question. And I want to actually demonstrate real quick what that looks like. Sharing my screen with you guys. Okay, 1 second. All right. So text tool here. I'm just going to type something out real quick. Actually, we'll just leave it at text, okay? Nice and simple, right? So Design Space has the ability to add your own fonts. But if you add your own font and you change it to writing style, it has not been formatted within the software to actually write like a handwritten stroke. It's formatted to do the outline of the letters, and it is super frustrating. So to demonstrate this, let me show you. We'll do this system font. This is just a system font. Don't worry about how I got there. Up here at the top with this font selected, if I change the style, you can see there is no writing option, which means it doesn't mean you can't draw this, but it means the style will not be a traditional writing. If I go up to operation and I change it to pen, I can draw it, but then you get this weird bubble effect like this, and even the strokes are over into each other's letters, right? Looks really weird, doesn't it? So this is the one downfall to using your own system fonts in conjunction with Cricut Design Space. Design Space does not have the ability yet to allow someone to install their own font on the computer and then change it to a true writing style. A true writing style would look like this, and it's only available under Cricut system fonts. And if you filter here by writing, okay, and then we'll pick this one, okay? So true writing font, result of a system font. So it is super annoying. There isn't any surefire way to get this result from a system font. If you get, like super thin fonts, you can sometimes, if you're using like a gel pen and it's so thin that it's like tracing the outline, it might result in almost looking like just a thicker stroke, but that's pretty like hit and miss. So I wish I had an answer for you on that was like this super splendid hack, but maybe in the future they will improve their software so that we can actually make this kind of translation. I do know that the reason that they can't do this very much is because the way fonts are created and the software, and then how the softwares talk to each other and how the fonts are installed, it's a whole tech thing. It's a whole tech thing. We'll put on our tech glasses, right? We'll be like, the whole tech thing. All right, so let's move on to the next question here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second. I think when we do these tech talks, I need to like, we'll go, what is it, like Clark Kent is when he wears the glasses, right? And then he takes it off, he's Superman. Okay, so when I go into tech talks, I gotta put glasses on. That'll be like my alter ego, right?
There you go.
All right, so Barbara asks me, can I clean my mats with soap and water to keep the stickiness? Yes, absolutely. That is what I recommend that you do. So there are lots of different tips and tricks out there to cleaning mats, guys. They'll say things like baby wipes, which can work. I'm not saying they can't work. They'll say things even like, I've heard people do rubbing alcohol, which by the way, don't ever do rubbing alcohol. That'll remove all the stickiness. But Dawn dish soap, or just simple dish soap that you would use to wash your dishes, and a light sponge. Don't use anything abrasive, just like a light, soft sponge that you would clean like a Teflon, pan with. Soap it up and then rinse it. The key is you need to do this not when you're about to craft. You need to do it like at the end of a crafting cycle, or just when you're doing some cleaning in your craft room one day, because you need to make sure they are like bone dry. And you can wash them, rinse them, and then you can pat them dry with paper towels, which is what I recommend. Make sure you use paper towels, because not that the paper towel can't stick, but generally speaking, if you use like a cloth towel, there's going to be a lot more possibility of lint coming off onto it, and it's going to disrupt the stickiness you're trying to recreate. So usually paper towels are less risky. Pat them dry lightly. Don't rub, just pat, and then lay them aside and let them air dry. If you can lay them outside in a covered area where they're not going to get anything on them, that's probably even better. But you cannot use it immediately after. Even if it feels like you've patted it dry really well, trust me, there's more moisture there than you realize, and your material will not stick well. Bone dry. So that's a great question, but yes, absolutely. Okay, so there was another one here for, is there a video on how to use everyday vinyl on a multi-layer pattern? I'm confused about how to use transfer tape for multi-layer on a t-shirt. So that, I just want to ask a clarifying question in return on that. I'm hearing the words t-shirt and I'm hearing the words transfer tape. So if we're talking about a t-shirt, there wouldn't be transfer tape involved, because you would be using iron-on vinyl, which comes on its own liner. Adhesive permanent vinyl, there's two types of vinyl. There's adhesive permanent vinyl, it's got sticky back. And then there's iron-on vinyl, which comes on its own liner already that you cut out, weed, and then you place it onto a fabric-like surface in most cases. If you're doing a t-shirt design, you're going to be layering iron-on. If you're doing something like a wood sign or a cup or something else like that where you want that adhesive sticky vinyl, then you are going to be using transfer tape with the permanent vinyl. So first identify which one are you actually using. Now, if you're wanting to know how to layer both, I get videos on both those. So I'll just show you real quick where you can find that. And then that way you can go and check it out and process that information in your own time. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys again so I can show you where to go. So you're obviously already watching this on YouTube right now. But if you come back to my main YouTube channel and you click on the videos, there's this little tiny search icon right here. And if you just type in the keyword, you can do just the keyword vinyl. You can do the keyword layer and hit enter. Here's one on how to layer and apply vinyl to wood signs. So this is great for understanding the process of permanent vinyl. If you're wanting to layer with permanent vinyl, this is great for that process. I show you how to do like lots of different colors together and get them all onto the sign. So watch that one. And then if you're wanting to learn how to layer infusible ink and heat transfer vinyl together, watch this one. If you're wanting to learn how to layer for a cup, watch this teacher appreciation design here. If you're wanting to learn how to layer iron-on a t-shirt, watch this one here, which is a Father's Day t-shirt tutorial. So just head over to my channel when this is over and take a look at those videos. And then if you have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to clarify them for you. Okay, let me pause and make sure I'm not actually missing anything important in the comments. Hey, everybody. Okay, so Ashley says, good evening. I'm an entrepreneur, designer, crafter from hometown, New Orleans, Louisiana. Welcome. Okay, that's awesome. I always get to like chatty and then I forget to actually say hi to everybody. Hi. All right, so I'm going to go to our next question now, which is from Anne. She asked, I would like to put a design on the ankle of leggings that goes all the way around the ankle. How would I do that? Okay, first, Anne, I love this idea. I really want to try it now. It's such a cute idea. I love it. So I grabbed a pair of my leggings because I wanted to kind of demonstrate how I would do this. So first, I would recommend having on hand like a sewing measuring tape, okay? So not a straight one, not a wood one, but actually like the kind you can wrap when you're measuring for clothing and that kind of stuff. Because you're going to want to measure, if it's like your leggings, let's say hypothetically it's your leggings, put the leggings on. Put the leggings on and do this. Keep in mind that it's going to stretch. So when you say leggings, I would say, how much are the leggings stretching? Because while they're stretched to everyday iron on, you need to be careful, because like as I'm saying this, I'm processing it. Like you need to be careful that if this is stretching, like this is paper my leggings. This is the end of it. Okay. As this is stretching, if you put it on in their leggings where they're the kind that like really kind of give and stretch, then you may have some issues with like cracking and peeling sooner rather than later when it comes to your iron-on vinyl. So I'm just going to leave that note there. I'm not discouraging you to try it. If you're doing more like a pair of leggings where it's like more a pair of sweat leggings where it's not going to stretch as much, what you want to do is get like a sewing measuring tape and you want to measure around like the circumference basically and get a good sense of how wide can I scale the design you're wanting to put around it. Maybe you're wanting to like write a quote or something like that. So you would type that out or you'd import the design and then you're going to want to scale it to match whatever the circumference would be. It means you have to use math. Really sucks. We took down this above ground pool in our backyard and we were getting rid of it. And we're doing like a very simple little fire pit design. And so it's a circle. And so we had to like measure is it the radius, like across and then find the circumference? Has something to do with pi. I don't know. I use ChatGPT, a horrible, horrible person. Math is not my strong suit. As you can tell, I am creative, right side of the brain. I am not analytical. So I cheat with a calculator, but that's essentially what you're going to do here. Once you get the scaling, as far as the application goes, usually there's a seam, not always, but there's a seam. So you're not going to want to iron over the seam. You're probably going to want to make it, let's say it's words. Okay. You're going to want to make it so that it's a break at the seam. And I would put it on in 2 sections. So I'd flip it to one side and I would cut in half, like cut your design in half, okay? And I'd press one side, and then I'd flip it over, and I'd press the other side. And then once it's all together, it's gonna look continuous, like it's going around. That's a really good question, and I've never done a tutorial on that. So you know what, I may write that down as like an actual future tutorial because unless I'm doing with you step by step in the moment, I'm only able to articulate so much. Hopefully that inspires you enough to at least kind of get you going in the right direction. But I may do that as a tutorial in the new year because that's like a really cute idea. It's a really cute idea. I love it. Welcome, Sarah. All right, so we're going to head on to another question. If you guys got more questions while you're here, feel free to go ahead and type them in. Anything that is technical, design-based, tools, or technique, like we were just talking about with putting the iron-on onto leggings, okay? So we have one from Shelly here who is asking me, what does my camera setup look like? What type of cameras do you have? What tech software do you use, etc.? So it sounds like that Shelly here is also a creative entrepreneur and is getting started in her own business journey. So you want to know my tech, which I'm excited to share the answer to that question, which is one of the reasons why I am actually doing this with my computer webcam today, Normally, I do not use my computer built-in webcam. I use other cameras when I'm doing this because I need the flexibility to move the camera. But because you're seeing this view of me today, behind me here, these are light boxes. They're by Newer, I think. And there's like softbox lights. So basically, they're very helpful for when you need to illuminate an area, like a crafting area, and you need to be able to get really good, solid, consistent lighting for cameras. Another light that I have on hand is, I'm going to turn you guys without trying to unplug the mic here, which I'll get to in a second, is these standalones. Okay, they look just like that. And if you're in a tight space, they're not ideal. I'm in a more generous space than I know a lot of people are, but it's still tight for me in here. So if you can go with all above, lighting, that'd be great. I was a little limited with the way the room is set up here. So I actually have floor lighting and above lighting. As far as cameras go, there's a world of options. And I actually have 3 different types of cameras that I use currently, and I've used 4 over the last several years. Just different stages along the way, okay? If you're getting started, just use your phone, okay? Just use your phone. Don't sail off the cliff of I have to go buy a $500 camera. You do not have to do that. Get started, progress over perfection, okay? Because I guarantee you, as you get into it, you're gonna change your mind. You're gonna learn something new. And if you go and invest in all this stuff up front, you're gonna be like, I wish I would have done that instead, because you'll learn something. So keep it simple at first. You can elevate later on, all right? So start with your phone. If you have a decent phone, if you happen to have an Apple phone, an iPhone, they all have, if it was purchased anytime in the last 3 to 5 years, they have decent cameras. So you'll be able to do good video recording on there, take photographs, all that stuff. As far as other cameras, you can use a DSL camera. That's kind of like a, not professional, but it's definitely one up from like a phone camera. So DSL cameras like Nikon, Canon, those can work well. The other camera I use when I'm actually doing the crafting, and this is not like top level professional, this is like midline. So I'm even not like where I could be yet. I use this very simple, I'll pull it over here for you guys. This is what I normally use when I craft an actual tutorial. So this is just a very simple webcam. And it has a light ring, which won't turn on unless it's plugged into my computer. But this light ring will actually turn on to create more light in your space. So if it's dark, then this is very helpful. They make them with and without the light rings. They also make them with mics built in. This one does not have a mic built into it, but they make them with mics built in to where you don't have to buy a separate mic, or you can just use your computer's mic, or whatever. So you can get really creative. This is also a tripod that is purchased separately. So this webcam can also just sit on top of my computer. So it's versatile. But the reason I put it on a tripod is because when I'm crafting, I need to be able to see you guys, and then I need to be able to take you down to what's actually happening down here with my hands. And so that's just my super simple solution for right now. In the future, when I have a bigger space, which should hopefully be next year, I will be doing dual camera setups. So this camera right here is the main camera I use when I'm actually doing like recording, not lives, when I'm just doing recording. I have 2 of those, and those are mirrorless cameras, and I worked up to that. I did not start there. They're not cheap. Okay. It was just an investment in the process. So don't feel like you have to start there. Please don't feel like you have to start there. Most people don't have them. And that's perfectly okay. I did this because I wanted a certain level of videography when I was doing like my recorded ones. And when I get into a bigger space, my goal is to have an overhead camera and a front facing camera during lives and when we craft, so I can do like switching screens, and you'll have to have other tech set up for that, but it's super advanced. And if you're starting, you don't need that. And I'm not even there yet. As far as mic goes, I love this blue Snowball Yeti mic. I don't remember exactly how much this is. I think like $80. Like $80, 70, 80 bucks. They're an investment. I'm not gonna lie, it's not like super cheap, but you can find less expensive ones. Okay, you can find less expensive ones. It does not have to be that expensive. You can even use your built-in mic on your computer if you have a decent computer. So keep it simple in the beginning. One other thing I'll give you is if you're doing, hypothetically, I'm assuming that maybe you're doing projects and maybe you're taking photos of those projects. You can use your phone, which is what I recommend getting started with. But if you want to use like a DSL camera or even get a better camera in the future, you may want to get something like a gray card. It could also look like this. And this just sets your white balance so that if you're working in an environment where things could be like super blue and cool looking or super warm and yellow casts and hues, depending on your lighting, this helps set that balance. So one of those little extra things you just have on hand, but if you're wanting to go for that level, super helpful. Okay. All right. So I'm going to continue on now. Hopefully that answered your question. Oh, actually, I wanted to show you, before I wrap that question up, I want to show you where you can find them. I built a little list based off of that question. To show you where I got most of all this stuff on Amazon, including the nicer cameras. And if you come over, the link is already in the video description of this video. Okay, so you can just click on it. But if you come over here to my Amazon like storefront of recommended items, and you click on small business resources, you're going to see a lot of the things I just mentioned. There's some extra things here too, but like my gray card and my webcam. You can also just do a simple light ring. So if like all this light setup here is like, that's a lot, I don't have that much space, don't try and cram it in. You will get frustrated. You will trip over things. Go for something simple like a ring light. It can be a 10-inch, a 12-inch. They have different sizes. And you can put, especially if you're starting just with a phone, you can put your phone right in it. And then it kind of like lights up the whole area in front of you. And it's great for like, you know, if you need to have that light, but also use something simple like a phone. So go check this out if that helps you. And let's see. You guys have any other questions? Okay, Shelly says software suggestions. Okay, software suggestions. I use for like streaming right now, I use StreamYard, StreamYard.com. That will allow you to hook up to a YouTube channel like this, and you can stream to the entire channel like publicly. You can stream unlisted. So if you just want to stream to certain people who have the link, like when we stream to our A-stars and we don't want everybody to have access because it's an exclusive community, then we stream just unlisted. So I have to provide the link for them to find the live. So StreamYard is what I use. I use a Mac. What's the model of my computer that I use? MacBook Pro M2, M1.
I think you have an M1.
I have an M1. They're on M3 or 4 now. I don't even know. I don't have the latest computer. I don't run out and buy a new computer every time they come out with one because that seems like every other week. So StreamYard with my MacBook. I have an adapter. Can't show it to you here because I have to unplug it, but I have an adapter because they only have the tiny, what is it, the USB-C? Yeah. The USB-C is all they have now on like the MacBooks if you're a Mac user like me. So you have to get like an adapter to plug in the camera and the mic. But that's what I have here with this cord. And if you just search that on Amazon, USB-C adapter if you're using a Mac. But yeah, if you have any other questions about other software, about StreamYard is what I'm using for actual streaming. For editing, like if you're thinking like editing videos, I started with Camtasia. It's super affordable. So you can check Camtasia out for video editing software. If you want to have someone else do it for you or go a little more advanced, then Premiere Pro. So Adobe Premiere Pro is what I would recommend for those edits. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go on to our next question now, which is, kind of up the same. I guess I just kind of answered that, but I'll be a little more specific. So I have a question here from Terry that's asking about like what is the best laptop to use with a Cricut machine. So don't necessarily get hung up on Mac versus PC. I used PC for years. I have no hard feelings against PC or anyone who loves PC, but I'm telling you, every person who's left the PC world and has entered the Mac world and has that option, you'll never want to go back. So I personally would say do Mac if you can, but PC will also work just fine. More specifically though, people always ask PC or Mac or what brand, like, you know, Dell or Lenovo or HP. Don't get hung up on that. You want to know the RAM. You want to know the specs. You want to know what is it that this computer can do. So no less than 8 gigabytes of RAM memory for best result. Even if you're just using Cricut Design Space and fiddling around with a few things of that nature, you're going to want to have 8 gigs of RAM. And you're going to make sure your computer stays tidy and you're not overloading the storage as well, because that's just going to slow things down a lot as well. Is there anything you wanted to add there, honey? Because like hard drive space, what would you recommend in general for hard drive space? Because you know specs way more than I do. I just ask you, what do I need? And you find it for me.
In this day and age, you want to probably have at least 500 gigabytes.
500 gigabytes of hard drive space?
Hard drive space. And if you're being super specific, you want an Intel processor. They're better than all the other ones.
An Intel processor?
Yeah.
Okay, so an Intel processor, we said 500 gigs or more of hard drive space. I would say minimum 8 gigs of RAM memory. If you can do 16, go 16. If you can do more, go more, because then the computer will last you longer and it'll be able to just keep up with your demands in the future. And you won't be like, oh, now I need to upgrade because I ran out of space or I can't keep up with the software or something like that. Do not, pretty please, if you use Cricut, do not get a Chromebook. Please do not get a Chromebook. I will die on that hill, you guys. Do not get a Chromebook. They are fine for people who don't do this type of stuff. I'm not knocking any brands here, but like, they do not work well with Cricut Design Space software. They have problems like playing well with other softwares, like just stick mainstream. Camp Apple or Camp PC. I don't care what you choose. Just pick Camp and don't go into Chromebook world. Okay. All right. So let's see. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. I'm going to get to the last couple ones here. Let's see. We have a question from Stephanie. She's asking about making faux leather bookmarks. She used heat transfer vinyl on them. Should she seal them with anything to ensure the longevity and protection of the heat transfer vinyl? No, I would not seal anything. If it's whether it's faux leather or it's real, I would not seal. That rhymed. Whether it's faux leather or it's real, I would not seal. Now that I've made it cheesy, you guys will remember it forever, right? Yeah, so I would not seal. It's not necessary in this case. It's like, honestly, there's not much that I seal in the Cricut world. If you go back to my YouTube channel and you look at those wood sign tutorials, I do have some tutorials on sealing wood signs. That's probably one of the only things I seal, and only in the case of putting it outdoors. Other than that, I don't do much sealing in anything, and I don't really have any problems. So no, I would not seal something. Okay, let's see. Linda is asking, she's using Recollections cardstock. She says she's using a very heavy weight, 110, so probably 110 pound cardstock. So that's the thickness of the cardstock. Every time it gets around the edges of a corner or an intricate spot, it tears. Everywhere else, it's fine. Any suggestions? Okay, so first, I like Recollections cardstock. It's not bad. It really isn't. But I have since discovered many other brands that are superior to it. I adore 12 by 12 cardstock shop. It's 12 by 12, literally the numbers 12x by 12 cardstock.shop. Babe, can you put that link in the?
I can.
Thank you. My husband's going to put it in the chat for you guys. Beautiful paper. Get the Encore cuts amazing with Cricut. You still have to do basic practices like make sure your blade's not dull, make sure your mat has some stick to it, make sure you're using a brayer tool to press the material to the mat. Use cardstock for intricate cut setting if it's super intricate design. But if you do all that other standard stuff and you're finding it's still not working, it's the paper. So I would recommend a different paper, especially when you're getting into super heavy papers. When you get to those sharp edges, it's like, I don't know what to do. I have to turn this corner and now I'm just going to bunch up and kind of like rip it, bunch it up, or get it all it just doesn't work. So I would do a different paper. When you're working with a heavier weight cardstock, just make sure you're using the right settings in Design Space 2. They do have a heavyweight cardstock setting. So if you're using a lower weight, it may not be playing as nice, but I would definitely take a bet on that paper. I'm going to put real quick in the chat for you guys a full blog post on, I've got it, don't worry about it, have it right here, ready, on what to do when your cardstock is ripping. Okay. So I'm popping that in and it goes through all the points. I get this question a lot because we have so many paper crafters in our community, and this helps so much. If you do all these things, 99% of the time, you're good to go. You're good to go. All right, I think I'm going to be down to my last question here that was submitted beforehand. So if you guys have other questions coming to mind, please type them in now so that I can get to them after I go through this last question here. Okay, so Janny says, I'm about to begin my own journey of a crafting business. That's awesome. Could you do a live on how to get started and what we should do? I would be happy to do a live around crafting for business and just, creative business owners, creative entrepreneurs. I would be happy to do that. I would ask that if we do one that's very specific about that I get very specific questions. So I understand what it's like to be at the beginning of that journey and be like, I don't know what I don't know. So what do I ask? I get it. But tell me a little bit more about what your specific question is. Like, what do you want to sell? Do you want to sell online? Do you want to sell locally? By the way, I highly recommend if you're going to sell locally, you also sell online because the world is online these days and that's where you reach people. So depending on what you're wanting to start with, there's a lot of questions in there that can be answered. If you guys would like me to do a live specifically around business and everything I've learned in the last decade, I am happy to do that. That's actually an area that I have a lot of interest and passion in. I just don't share about it a lot in this community because I really kind of serve to the hobbyists, but I've had more and more people start to ask me about that. So I really would love a chance to get to kind of talk on a different wavelength. I would say first, really decide what are you going to be known for? When I started, I was known for those of you who know my story, I was a stay-at-home mom, and this was a decade ago, right? Yeah, actually 11 years ago. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was very young. I'm 33 now. I was 21, yeah, somewhere in there, 21, 22. And, not to give you tons of history in the back, I came of a very abusive childhood. So it was like life was just a slap in the face. It was like, oh, look, marriage, motherhood, and life. And nobody prepared me for it from my isolation. And so I ended up in a place of a lot of depression and anxiety. I did get to at one point where it was like, why continue on? And, thankfully God pulled me through that, family pulled me through that, and I'm not there anymore. But one day I just got up and I was like, enough, I'm tired of thinking about my problems. Let's do something. And I'm like, I've always been creative. I always love crafting. And so I'm like, I'm just going to try to craft just so I can do something today other than think about my problems, think about the things that are bothering me. And for whatever reason, I had stumbled upon the concept of making paper flowers. And I was like, that sounds fun. Let's do that. And so I just started tinkering with that. I actually went to Michael's craft store and I just bought the punches that they make, before things were really digitized. And I bought the punches and I went and I started punching stuff out. And then I was like, I wonder if I can make any money at this. Went to Etsy. I started a little Etsy shop and I sold bouquets, paper floral bouquets and arrangements for brides, baby showers, bridal showers. And I did that for 2 years, something like that. Yeah, 2 years. And then along the way, I was like, people would ask me, they'd be like, how do you do that? I want to learn. I was like, oh, I got to teach. What then? What then? And I just set out and I used Google. Guys, it's really I'm happy to be a resource for you. There is nothing you can't do in this information age. You can find the answers you need. And it's more about, can I believe I can do it? Am I telling myself I can't do it? Make sure that domino falls in the right direction. And then just go get to work researching, asking questions, just ask questions. And get very focused on what is the one thing you want to be known for first. So that was a very long-winded answer. Okay, so Tara says, I just jumped on and saw you were talking about photography. I wonder if you have any suggestions about making my own clothing mock-ups. I know that's a big question. Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Oh, and someone else says they love business talk. So maybe we'll do a business talk in the future. That would be super fun, right? That would be super fun. Okay, so let me answer this other question about mock-ups. Mock-ups are huge. Yes, they're awesome. They save us digital creators from having to craft and photograph every single SVG we design. We're able to just be like, ooh, pretty photograph, pretty mock-up, put the design on it, and people get a feel for how it's going to look, and they can decide if they like the digital product or the digital download, right? So I've done a few of my own mock-ups. I've done some photography. I do have, different cameras. I have a mirrorless camera. I've had a DSL camera. I've used my phone camera. You really want to just think about, your equipment and like, what is your end result? So is your question more about like what equipment? Is your question more about like, what should I create for the mock-ups? I mean, there's so many things you can do. I'll tell you what I need, and then you can photograph them. I'll buy them from you. I need t-shirts for specific holidays, like t-shirt mock-ups for specific holidays. I need wood sign mock-ups. Anything that's like a practical application, anything that was like if you're, posing with a t-shirt on, if you're doing a flat lay where you lay everything flat and then you photograph it overhead, like aerial overhead, those are great. So definitely there's a huge market for that. Etsy's great for that. You can start very simple with an iPhone camera. You really can. Mirrorless cameras are going to be like that professional level, but they're not cheap. And you're going to want to have some training there on that too. So if you're like, I need training on how to use a nice camera, you can obviously go to YouTube and do a lot of searching, but then it becomes like that black hole of search results, right? Like, does this apply to me? I don't know what that means. One site I like is Skillshare.com. There's also school.com, school with a K. And they're like masterclass series on there that will teach you very specific things. So if you're trying to like get an idea for yourself, they're not free. I think they're like some of them are as cheap as $9 a month, or you can even get like a 30-day free trial and just get your feet wet and decide if that's something for you. And just get yourself educated on it first, and then make decisions on what do I want to do, what I want to buy, what do I need to invest. So clarity first, and clarity comes through action. And in this case, it's do your action of your research and starting to process that learning before jumping in. So hope that helps you. Okay, awesome. You guys have been awesome. Okay, so if anybody else have any other tech questions, technique questions, tech-related questions, please put them in now. Let me just double check that I didn't miss anybody here. Oh, there's one from Leah that says, I could see the adhesive on the side of my vinyl cutout after I peeled the transfer tape away. Okay. I'm going to take an educated guess on this. If you're seeing adhesive, it sounds like you're seeing adhesive on top of the vinyl result, like you're using permanent vinyl or something like that. You're transferring it with transfer tape, and you're seeing some sort of sticky adhesive left behind. If you're seeing that, that's your transfer tape. That's a transfer tape problem. That would be my guess based on this scenario that you're painting for me here. So in that case, get a different transfer tape. I like, what's the brand that I have on Amazon? I'll find it for you real quick. It's sticky, but I've never had it leave a residue behind. Not just transfer tape. That helps. Yeah, here it is. I'll put it into the chat for you guys real quick. Here we go. Okay, so tomorrow, is it tomorrow or Tamara? I butcher names. I am known for butchering names, and that is a terrible attribute to have. So I'm just going to call you Lovely Lady T, okay? So getting stuck in the research, yes, that can be very easy to do when it comes to getting started with something. I am not a victim. I have struggled with that too. Where do you want to be? Like, what is the goal? What is the dream? Consolidate, like, get that down, because all the little steps to get to this dream, this goal over here, you have to know what that is first before we can build the roadmap to get you there. So get real focused, real specific on what do I want? What's my mission? What is it I'm wanting to give to someone else, to sell to someone else, to transform their life, to bring joy to their life, to provide something in their life that makes their life easier, better, something faster. It's solving a problem, and it's an act of servitude. So what do you want to do? Like, what's the main goal? Yeah. So, okay. I got that. Awesome. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. Did you guys enjoy our first Tech Talk episode? I think this was fun. It was just my husband did. He's like, me. Because I told you so many things you didn't know.
I learned something new.
Did you learn something new? So my husband works with me full time now, and he's kind of like in his training mode still, because there's years of knowledge in my head that I'm kind of unpacking for other people in the business. And yeah. So anyways, I'm glad you learned something. I hope everyone else learned something. This replay, of course, will be up. We're going to do another craft tech talk next month as well. And I'm going to go write down the idea of doing like a business tech talk or something like that. I'll come up with a different name for it, since there's some interest around that, and I'll follow up with you guys on that. But thank you all so much for joining me today. This has been fun. Let me know if you have follow-up questions. If you're watching the replay, feel free to place them in the comments. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.